I actually almost have a PhD in literature, so I put that to purpose on my beer cans. It will have served for that, if nothing else.
Let's see, yeah. English, lit, PhD, beer. Yeah, that works. Why not? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All Beer Inside. We are back at the brewery today. Today we're in the Hochelaga-Maisonneuve area of Montreal, and joining me is Shawn from Avant-Garde Brewery.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi. Thank you very much for hosting us today. I really appreciate it. You brought me out some great beers to try today. What's the first one I'm going to be trying?
So yeah, the first one is called Doux Bisous. It's basically our wit beer. So we wanted to give the traditional Belgian wit beer a twist. So we basically kind of kept a little bit of the coriander that's typically in the style, but we didn't put any orange peel in it, and instead we replaced that with kaffir lime leaves and jasmine flower, actually. So it's super floral, a little bit citrusy from the lime leaves. Yeah, a thirst quencher.
You're also having a beer? What are you having?
I'm having a beer. It's one of my go-tos these days. It's called BZ. And this is basically what we call a Berliner Braggot. Okay. So it's a Berliner Weiss style beer, but it's brewed with almost half of the fermentable sugars are from honey. So it has this wildflower honey flavor to it. Super refreshing, 3% alcohol. So nice. You can pretty much down
Toast.
it. Right.
Oh yeah, that's nice. That's a nice summer beer.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Yeah, it's to our surprise. Actually, when we first brewed this beer, it was intended to be a summer seasonal, but it's been one of our best sellers for the past 3 years now. It's actually our second best seller after our IPA, so that was pretty surprising for us. Yeah. But I guess there's a big market for these thirst quenching beers, and it's kind of different from most of the wit beers on the market. So I like to think that's why it's a go-to for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm not getting a lot of orange that I usually do in a lot of wheat beers, like you said. So it's a good change for me. This is super delicious. So
thanks.
It's very crushable. So what's the beer story? Brasseurs, Avant-Garde. How did it get created?
So the story it's kind of a long story, so I'll try to make it short. But we're basically two partners. My partner Renaud, who's not here today, he first founded Jukebox Beers, which is also now part of Avant-Garde. So he founded Jukebox in 2012, and we both started out as, well, first of all, home brewers, but second as contract brewers. So he's founded Jukebox in 2012, started brewing at Brasseurs de Montreal, and then we met through our homebrew club, MontreAlers, and we got to talking. At that moment, I was actually working at McCausland Brewery in St. Henry. I quit what I was doing before to become a brewer, thinking eventually I'll have my own place. So anyway, I had the background for the technical aspect of brewing, and Renaud has a background in finance and stuff like that. Anyway, he was running Jukebox on his own, and part-time basically was working full-time in a bank. And we got to talking, and we figured it would be fun to work together, so we founded another brand, which is Avant-Garde. So as of 2016, that's when we brewed our first brews with Avant-Garde. We transferred all our production to Hochelaga, which is in the same building as our brewery. And from 2016 to 2019, we brewed our beers at Hochelaga. And then in 2018, we signed the lease for this beautiful place, and started brewing in 2019. And so when we built the factory here in taproom, we merged Jukebox and Avant-Garde together as one company. So we're basically running both brands, in the brewery here, brewing, both.
Yeah, because I originally found you guys because I was trying to go to Hochelaga. I didn't realize that they didn't have customers in. And so I started driving up and I saw the front, and I'm like, oh, beer I can drink in Hochelaga, and I'm already here, so why not? There's wasn't as many in the area. There's 2 or 3 more now in the not adjoining boroughs, but it was great, and I love the kind of old garage door style of the brewery. And when you started, you didn't have a kitchen. You mentioned pre-show you had to add the kitchen because of the pandemic.
Yep.
So that...
Actually, it was always in the plan.
Okay.
But I mean, it's a big investment, and we didn't really have the funds for it after building the brewery. So at first we just ran a tap room, and yeah, we decided to go ahead with the kitchen. Actually, we put a deposit on our pizza oven 3 days before the first lockdown. So we were like, okay, what do we do, you know? So we kind of put that on hold. And then during the summer, last summer, we decided to go ahead with the project. And when we closed for the second lockdown, we just gave it a go and built everything, which was, you know, it turned out pretty well because building a kitchen in our tap room while we were open would have been hell. So, you know, at least we got to you know, do all the work without having to clean up every day.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, we're newly open with the kitchen now, and it's going pretty well.
Now, when you and your partner got together, just start contract brewing with Hochelaga, same building, creating this location, was there any problems or difficulties that came along with the creation of the Avant-Garde brand?
Nothing unusual, honestly, because we were quite lucky because, as I mentioned, we were in the same building as Hochelaga, and when we used to brew at Hochelaga, I was also head brewer there. So basically, I was working there when the brewery was actually built. So I was pretty present, and the owner at that time of Hochelaga, we were kind of starting to look for a place. And yeah, he told us, well, the old bingo that's been closed for 6 months. They're looking for people to rent the place. And yeah, if you guys are interested, I can introduce you to the owner. And so he did. And we were really lucky because it's super hard to find a space for a brewery because, well, for multiple reasons. You know, there's the permits, there's the zoning laws, and then you have to have, you know, an building owner that's willing to work with you, and a lot of them aren't. And so there's a lot of stories of my colleagues in other breweries that like spent 2 years just finding a place, and you know, you find a place and then you work on it for 2-3 months, and then the owner just rents it to somebody else. And so anyway, we were there's 2 other breweries, there's Hochelaga and Glutenberg in the same building. Yeah. The owner knew what to expect. They knew it was like big investments, material investments, a lot of work, and they were ready to back us for that. Well, actually, you know, not financially, but they were really ready to work with us for that. So, so we were actually quite lucky and got the brewery going pretty quickly. So we didn't really have any huge hurdles. And then, you know, since then, well, obviously there's a pandemic, but I'd say our biggest hurdle was probably distribution. Like we changed distributors this winter, created another company for representation, in which we partnered with different breweries just to, you know, hire sales reps and all that. And I'd say, you know, sales is really the you know, biggest. It's not a problem, but it's not easy. You know, brewing a beer is fine. It's I mean, we have the brewery, the equipment, but you know, getting it out there is not. I mean, it's a job in itself, so yeah.
What I do like of Quebec beer laws or liquor laws in general versus the rest of Canada, from what I've seen, is that we're allowed kind of like small beer stores. Like where I live, it's multi-hops. There's Épicerie Moderne and NDG, places like that. So it's a lot easier for me to access you guys than having to go to like an LCBO or having to go to a brewery. And with the pandemic, everything being shut down, I didn't know if I was able to go to breweries. So it's thankfully you're an essential service, so it's great to have.
Definitely.
Yeah. So Avant-Garde, what made you guys decide that name?
Kind of long story. I mean, the real reason is that Renaud and I couldn't like get along on whatever names we were looking at, and Avant-Garde was like the one that we both liked. And yeah, to me, like the meaning of it is that. You know, I have a background in literature and arts and everything, and you know, there's the avant-garde movement in art in the 20th century, and one of the staples of, you know, we always think of these artistic movements as in, you know, doing completely wacky stuff, but to me, I think an important aspect of those artistic currents is that they kind of took art and brought it into the industrial world. Like if you think about Andy Warhol, Marcel Duchamp with his ready-mades, you know, there's kind of like this link between the Beaux-Arts and industrialization that is super present in those movements. And I think with beer, I like to think of beer as being artistic and technical at the same time, and plus it's like more or less mass produced. So I think there's something to get from that I like.
Very cool. No, I like it. And you mentioned industrial. You are obviously in a very industrial area, which is great. You obviously have a lot of traffic come by. Do you get a lot of just random people show up and like, hey, a brewery, I'm going to grab some beers? Yeah,
more and more, and especially with the terrace that we built this spring. So people drive by and they see it, and it kind of catches the eye. But we also have a lot of factory workers, or there's like a Coke distribution center right next door. So we get a lot of employees from these businesses that are not necessarily like beer aficionados, but they're happy to have a place where they can come and have a drink after work. So and as I mentioned, we're in a huge building here. It's like 700,000 square feet or so. 2 other breweries in the building, but there's our next door neighbor is a go-kart track, indoor go-kart track. There's a climbing gym. There's a interior soccer. So we get a lot of people that come to this building for multiple reasons, and then just stop by after to have a drink. So that's pretty cool.
Pre-pandemic, did you find a lot of, since you're next to where the Expos would have played, but you also have Saputo Stadium, which is the Montreal CF or club football. Do you get a lot of fans who come here before they go to the stadium?
Yeah. Pre-pandemic, we did actually quite a bit. When there was some big games, we would get reservations, and we actually tried to strike a deal with the fan clubs. Yeah. There's 2 fan clubs from the Impact, and today it's called the CF, but and it was just hell. Like that, how rowdy some of these fans can be, and they came in and we said like never again. Yeah. they were sticking stickers everywhere on the walls and everything, and we're like, anyway.
I very much miss the Expos personally,
right.
But it would be great if, because I really wasn't into craft beer until we lost the Expos. But now it'd be like, I'd come here, I'd have a few beers, and then I'd go see an Expos game. But
definitely.
The unfortunate reality is that stadium is kind of bad. So, yeah. What's beer number 2 I'm going to be trying here?
Yeah, so that's Mr. Brown. That's one of our flagships. One of the first beers that we came out with. So it's a British brown ale. So it's pretty malt forward, and not very hoppy. The accent was really on the malt bill. So we're talking 4.5% alcohol. Little residual sweetness, but not so much. It's pretty quaffable for a brown ale. And that's basically what we wanted. A lot of brown ales out there. Actually, when we came out with it, one of the reasons that we brewed this beer first was that we figured, brown ales were sort of misrepresented in Quebec, and since then there's been more coming out, but at that time in 2016 there weren't that many good ones, and the better brown ales were often stronger American brown ales, and so stronger, hoppier, sweeter. So we really just wanted to kind of bring back the British style and the pub brown ale that you can pint. And so that's the story behind Mr. Brown.
It's very, very crushable. Like you said, 4.5, super smooth. It's got that maltiness I like. So I'm a big fan of English style bitters.
Right.
And this is right up that alley. So
yeah, we have an ordinary bitter that we brewed called Les Vivants, and we brewed one in the fall, but we kind of made it a seasonal because it's not a big seller. And it's too bad, and we're thinking of just like discontinuing it because it's super hard to sell. But at the same time, it's one of our favorite beers in house. And it's too bad. Eventually they'll probably make a comeback. But English bitters are really hard to sell. People don't you don't go into a beer store thinking I'm gonna get an English bitter. So unfortunately. Yeah.
No, it's definitely, it's the IPA train right now. Sure. Everything is haze craze. Yep. It's going. People are hoping that the lagers make a return, which would make me very happy.
Yep.
the science and the timing behind a lager.
Absolutely.
If you can nail a lager, you can almost nail anything. The way I see it, so.
I mean, I didn't bring you any lagers because right now we don't have any Untappd because they sell out too fast. But yeah, lagers have made a comeback in the last couple of years, and there's more and more good craft breweries brewing them, and I think they're more and more appreciated. There's still, it's nothing compared to the IPA craze, but still, at least we come out with lagers, and it's a style that we really, really like to brew. And as brewers, we all enjoy IPAs, but IPAs are very tongue saturating, and I mean, at some point you just want to come back to something simple, and which is, I think, partly responsible for the comeback of lagers. I think brewers, they're brewers' beer, and brewers want to brew them, and making a good lager is something that's subtle and complex. And so, like, we actually have 3 or 4 lagers here that we have year-round, and pilsners and a Mexican lager that we just absolutely love.
Yeah, I find lagers are perfect for almost any season, but especially like that's a terrace beer, that's a patio beer.
Definitely.
You sit down, you have a nice lager with like a slight malty backbone. It's perfect. So that's personal choice, obviously. I know people who are just IPAs, New England's, and that's it, and you're ruining your palate for the day. So beer is the variety, all the spices you could have in beer, all the variety. It's the way things should be. So try everything the way I see it.
Definitely, absolutely, and that's with Jukebox, the original idea was to make hoppy American beers. Like back in 2012, IPAs were not that common in Quebec, and they were really hyped up in the States already, and that was Renaud's idea behind Jukebox. It was a West Coast IPA craze at that moment, but he wanted to bring the best IPAs he could make to Quebec. And with Avant-Garde, we decided to make just all the rest. And at first, we didn't brew any IPAs because it was kind of like Jukebox specialty. But then we figured we were missing out on a lot of sales, so we started brewing IPAs as well. And like today, I mean, we don't limit ourselves to styles. We just brew whatever we want and whatever we think that people will want to drink as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, it makes, for us, it's way more fun just to be like for the creative side. I mean, it's just brew whatever's cool to brew.
Your names and labels are very unique. Who came up with those?
I do most of the branding. I don't do the illustrations because I don't have any talent for that. But so basically, the can design, with the logo, we have a graphic designer that does all that stuff for us. And basically, as you can see, the design with the lines and the framing, basically every can is the same, and then the colors and the illustrations are different. At first, with the name Avant-Garde, we really wanted to give an artistic dimension to the beer. Our slogan is actually the art of beer, and so we wanted to go with funky illustrations. And at first we were we had a different illustrator for every can, for every label. And recently we've decided to go with like the same illustrator for our lagers, one illustrator for our IPAs, so that we get kind of like a series feeling to them. And but basically all the ideas, pitches, and most of the names I come up with. So I basically choose the illustrator, give them a briefing on what the beer is, what I want for the illustration, and then just let them go. And we like to give them as much freedom in the illustration as possible, just a few guidelines. And I really like to give them an idea of what the beer is, the beer history and everything, so they can actually, get inspired by the contents, and try to make some nods basically to what the beer is. And then I come up with the
kind of the write-up.
The write-up, yeah. I actually almost have a PhD in literature, so I put that to purpose on my beer cans. It will have served for that, if nothing else.
Let's see, English, lit, PhD, beer. Yeah, that works. Why not? That's awesome. Yeah, that's very cool, and it's a science, so that's where it comes from. So
definitely.
That's amazing. What's the first beer you ever homebrewed?
I ever homebrewed?
Yeah.
That's a good question. It was negligible, I think. It was an IPA sort of thing, but I mean, at that point, one of my friends had lent me his kit, but it was basically an extract kit with a bucket and but I didn't know the difference between extract and all grain, so I went to my homebrew shop and I said, well, I need I want to brew this type of beer, and so he grinds up all the grain and everything, and I said, well, I was told I needed extract as well. So he's like, well, do you actually know what you're doing, you know? So anyway, I ended up doing like an extract beer with a steep of specialty grain. And it was sort of an IPA. It wasn't actually that bad, but I'd say that the first beer like I consciously brewed with the purpose was probably like on my third try. It was a Saison. Which actually was kind of the base idea for Une Saison en Enfer, which we brew right now. No, actually no. For the Funk and the Fury, which is a Saison mixed fermentation, Saison yeast with Brett in primary. So yeah, basically it was a recipe from the Mad Fermentationist, which I adapted to my own needs, and yeah, I was way into the Mad Fermentationist for a long time. I love his blog and his ideas, and yeah, a lot of inspiration for the first brews I got from there.
That's what I love about the internet, is that you can discover so much about either home brewing or influencers, things like that. It's just how you can do stuff, how they do stuff, how you can adapt it in your own style. So yeah, I gotta love the internet when it comes to that kind of stuff. Maybe not some other stuff, but
yeah,
it's.
I mean, I remember when I was a kid, we went to the library and you had the little
Dewey Decimal System, yeah.
And I can't fathom how people would actually find information in those days. I mean, mind you, there's a lot of fake news and shitty information on the internet too, so you have to kind of know how to make the difference. But
so, as you can hear in the background, you have your kitchen preparing.
Yeah, sorry for that.
No, it's fine. Have you designed a beer with food menu yet?
Not per se.
Okay.
I mean, it was always in the plans, but we didn't really want to go, all the way. We don't really prepare food with beer. We don't really use beer in the kitchen that much. I mean, for some things we do, but we haven't really worked on that so much, except for like 2 weeks ago. It was our second anniversary party for the brewery and taproom, and we did a beer food pairing, which was great. I mean, we recently brewed a beer that's in rum barrels right now, which is a 14.5% imperial stout. Yeah. So we had a few kegs of that was not barrel aged, and we decided to start off the pairing with that. And with dessert, because it was her birthday, so you always start with dessert your birthday. So we had a cannoli with this beer with a grated dried cherry topping, which was really interesting, and it was a very good pairing. And then we had a pizza and wild beer pairing, and then at the end we had charcuterie with a rye. Barrel-aged Imperial Brown Ale, which is the Imperial version of Mr. Brown, which will be out this fall under the name Dr. Brown. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, I mean, we kind of have a mind for it, but we haven't really developed anything specific as of yet.
So you're not. Maybe in the future, the menu will be like, here's this food, here's 1 or 2 beers that we recommend.
Exactly.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I love that, where sometimes I just don't want to think. Sometimes it's just, I want this, and they say that. So.
Yeah, I mean, our staff is aware of, which beer works with which food. So if, anybody comes here and asks for, what would be good with this type of pizza, then, our staff is able to, give some recommendations. But it's not written on the menu or anything, and it's not, it's kind of like out of our heads.
What's the third beer I'm going to be drinking?
Yeah, so third beer is Juste haze. So it's kind of like a semi-hazy New England IPA.
All citrus on the nose.
Yeah.
What's the alcohol on this?
This is, I believe, 6.5. 6.5 or 7.
6.5.
Yeah. Yeah, so
it's
fairly
like
recent.
A New England hybrid almost?
Yeah, almost like a New England hybrid, I would say.
Not overly powering, very
No,
balanced.
it's not. It's not like super sweet or. I mean, it still finishes at around like between 4 and 5 Platos, so there is that residual sweetness. It's dry hop during fermentation, so you do have the biotransformation of the hops, but it's not near like a West Coast IPA, but it's I'd say somewhere on the spectrum.
Yeah, that's very nice. It's tingling on like the back part of my tongue there. I don't remember the certain parts of the palate, but it's like my back right near my cheeks. It's just kind of like dancing on my tongue, so it's very nice. Awesome. And now I know you guys collabed with Drew from Kahnawake for one of their anniversary beers. What are some other collabs you've done?
We released a collab in the spring with Les Insulaires in Laval, which was a passion fruit and argousier lager, which was very nice. A lot of fruit went in there, but it was still smooth and lager-like, which was fun, a little bit different from most of the fruit beers that we brew or find on the market, which are usually a lot more, fruit-forward.
Yeah.
What else have we brewed? We're working on a few collabs right now. We're working on a collab with Montreal for a wild fermentation collab with them. Ile-de-Garde, we have an ongoing project as well that we it's a bière de garde that we want to make. Avant-Garde, Ile-de-Garde, Garde de Garde kind of thing. That was a concept, but we did a test batch this winter and wasn't really to our liking, and it's not the type of beer that you release in the summer either. So I'm looking forward to getting that back on track in the fall. Otherwise, who else did we collab with? It'll come back to me.
Don't worry. Now, if there is,
we released a great collab with Melon Brewery, which is the new brewery in Rosemont. One of the two owners is one of our ex-brewers. Actually started the project recently, was working here for almost 2 years. And while he was still here, before they actually opened the brewery, and he was like super unlucky because he signed his lease like a week before the first lockdown, and they were actually bright enough to negotiate a clause in their contract where if they couldn't open or if there was a lockdown for the pandemic, this was before the first lockdown, so they had they didn't have to pay rent for like the first 3 months. So, but I mean, they went through hell and back just to open their brewery, and now they opened a little bit before the deconfinement, and they started selling cans on place. But anyway, long story short, we brewed a IPL with them, which was a great beer, super popular. It just sold out like that, and looking forward to collabing again with them.
So things have settled down. It's safe to go on vacation again, sit in a cylindrical tube of recycled air for hours on end without a mask. A beer vacation you want to go on that you're like, things have settled down, let's go somewhere and drink craft beer from wherever.
Prague? Definitely. Okay. Yeah. That's my next beer destination for sure. I mean, I love Belgium as well, traditional lambic. I'd actually love to do spontaneous fermentation, and it's in our plans to eventually get there. So, I'd love to go, get some, visit some breweries, get some tips on how to do it. And, but yeah, definitely, I think Czech Republic would be my first visit. I know, a lot of Quebec brewers, there's actually been some organized trips with Martin Thibault and from Coureur des Bois, between, a group of brewers just going to Prague, and I was kind of jealous actually not to have been, but I would definitely go to Czech Republic next. Germany as well. I mean, I think I would really enjoy going on a, more of a traditional beer culture trip.
Yeah.
Like, Germany and Czech Republic. Britain as well.
Yeah.
But all those, old school countries.
Yeah, finding like a brewery somewhere in the hills of like super northern England where you have to hike for 10 miles or whatever. So.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I think there's a lot of appeal for me in these old brewing cultures that are super well established. And when you go to, Cologne, you drink Kölsch, and you know, you just go to, there's, you know, there's not that much of a craft beer scene, but it's like the traditional beer scene, and you know, beer has been a staple in those cultures for, you know, hundreds of years, and they've been drinking more or less the same stuff for hundreds of years, and yeah, just go to, you know, one of those lager countries where where you just drink, you know, greatly crafted beer and
a beer that was fermented in a cave underground type thing. Yeah, no, that's a great, like the European trip where you start in England and you work your way west is definitely one you could just take trains the entire time or rent a car. It's the way, just looking on the map, it's like, oh, I could drive everywhere. It's a fraction of the size of Canada. It's not like us coming from Montreal to going to Vancouver for beer. Or if you're going from England to, let's say, the Czech Republic or whatever, it's a lot less time.
Absolutely, definitely.
Yeah, I love that idea. Me as well. I'd love to hit Australia and New Zealand. I know their beer scene is starting to emerge there too, so it's...
one of my actual brewers, spent a year in Australia working in breweries, so apparently the scene is, it's starting to boom down there.
Any breweries that you could think of, like even outside of North America, that you'd brew with? Like go to a monastery in Belgium and brew with some monks?
Well, yeah, definitely. I would definitely brew with like Cantillon, Driefonteinen, you know, those brews. But I don't think they're really into the collab scene that much. But yeah, definitely. I'd love to do some, you know, blending collabs. We have a big barrel program here. We have about 200 barrels, and I find that blending is one of my favorite parts of the job, because it's, you know, it relies on, it's at once, you know, you don't really have control on what the beer is going to be like when you do mixed fermentation. I mean, we have a general idea of how the beer is going to turn out, but it's not always what we expect. And then just to create a beer from all these different beers that we've made, and finding ways to integrate some beers that are kind of, you know, off spectrum, and, you know, bring them back with other beers to make something that's actually, you know, the best beer that you can make. I find, you know, the work is just so much fun, and it's, you know, brewing is one thing, but it's very technical and it's very repetitive. But yeah, blending is just so much fun.
Yeah. That's the wild part about brewing. It's like, it's very repetitive and technical, but at the same time, it's very experimental as well. So
definitely.
It's just combining that world of putting everything together, which is great. And like you said, blending, I listen to other drinking podcasts, and they have this guy, he's called the American Wino, and he goes to vineyards and he says the way they blend and stuff. And now he's starting to have craft brewers because he sees the popularity of craft brewing in America, and he's had these brewers, and I think they use the thing called cool ships to like kind of cool down the beer and this stuff. And it's just, the industry as a whole is wild. And
absolutely.
The thousands of books, hundreds of thousands of podcasts you can listen to, 1,000 YouTube shows. It's just the love that people have for crafts and buying local, especially because of the pandemic, is so good to see for me.
Absolutely. And, you know, compared to wine, I mean, I'm a big wine fan as well. But I mean, you make wine from grapes, so basically, I think that the agricultural aspect of wine is probably one of the most important ones. After that, obviously, you have to, you know, pay attention to what you're doing on the fermentation side and the aging, blending, and all that. But the main difference with beer is that you have more ingredients. You have the malt, and then you have the hops, and you have hundreds of varieties of each. So like the potential to make like different products is, I think, way bigger than with wine. And I mean, no disrespect to the wine industry or anything. And there's a lot of subtlety in the wine varietals, grape varietals, and everything. And it's really all in this subtlety. But with beer, there's so much experimentation to do, and you can, you know, start toasting your own grains and doing some custom stuff that I don't think you can really do with grapes. So yeah, there's the potential is infinite. And
what's the last beer I'm going to be trying here?
Yes, so this is a jukebox beer. It's an 11.5% imperial stout, aged in bourbon barrels for a year. So that's one of my favorite beers that we've made in the past years. I think it's just like everything is on point. And it's 11.5%, so it's a big beer, but it's very drinkable. You don't get that much alcohol warmth.
Yeah.
I think the aging process kind of scrubbed that out and smoothed it out. Plus, compared to a lot of bourbon barrels are very flavorful. They contribute a lot of flavor. And this beer was like so big, and the malt bill is so roasty that I think it kind of like balances the bourbon, and you don't get that much bourbon up front compared to, we have a bourbon barrel aged barley wine that we released at the same time last year, and that one is all about the bourbon. This one, you get the bourbon, but I mean, we've actually had complaints about people, telling us, well, where's the bourbon? I mean, it's been in freshly emptied, non-rinsed bourbon barrels for a year. So I mean, it's not because the bourbon isn't there. It's just because the beer it's big enough to really absorb a lot of the flavor and blend it into the actual flavors of the beer. You get a really chocolatey, chocolate and vanilla flavor from it that I really enjoy. And this is just for the anecdote, but we can only sell beer here. We're not allowed to sell wine or alcohol because we're actually we don't have a bar permit. We have a brewery permit that allows us to have a tap room, right? So we can't do any shots. So with the kitchen staff and the bar staff, at the end of shifts, we do shots of black metal, which is pretty cool. Just a little 2-3 ounces, and yeah.
This is quite the flavor of beer. Like you said, chocolate, vanilla. I get slight hints of bourbon,
yeah.
But I say I have a consumer palate where I'll try anything. I'll get a little bit of flavors of everything, but I'm not like, oh, the hop was grown here in Germany. And I don't have that knowledge. I don't have that palate. So this is something by a campfire with a cigar,
yeah.
and just enjoying this. So
definitely.
This is all your beers are fantastic. This is my favorite so far.
Thanks.
So here's a question I usually ask. Now, you're kind of more isolated than other places. There are 1 or 2 places that have opened. Somebody comes here, tries all your fantastic beers, buys some beers on the way home. Any friends in the area that you suggest for people to try before they kind of head home?
Oh, definitely. Well, there's Montreal, like you mentioned, which is kind of pretty nearby on Hochelaga, l'espace public. That they have their bar on Ontario, but they opened a brewery, production facility right nearby their bar, which is basically on Les Tourneurs and almost Ontario basically. So it's just a stone's throw away from their bar, and they don't have actually they're opening their terrace. If it's not open, it's opening imminently, and they're planning on having a tap room there as well, but they haven't got to building that yet. But you can just go to the brewery and get some great beers from them.
So what's next for kind of Avant-Garde Jukebox as a brand? What's next for you guys?
Well, that's a good question. Like for now, like our last next step was the kitchen. So now that we're open, we kind of want to surf on that and get things going here. We don't really have any projects that are imminent. Like I said before, we just we changed distributors in the spring, in March, and we created a company with a few different breweries to hire sales reps. So we're working on that a lot to get sales up to where we're comfortable as a company. So that's taking a lot of energy right now. I mean, next step, developing new beers as well. We came out with a lot of new beers this year because we hadn't. We were kind of coasting on the beers that we had for a while, and with the pandemic and everything, loss of revenue, we figured it was time to just hit the old creative department up with new products. So we came out with a lot of new beers this spring, and a couple new beers coming out again in the fall, plus all of our barrel-aged beers that we release generally in the fall and just after Christmas. So yeah, I'll be working on new products as well for the fall lineup. And I mean, I would like our next project to be a cool ship on the roof of this building. That would be awesome. But yeah, I don't know that that'll be done in time for the cold, the cool fall weather. But if I could get that done for next spring, I would be really happy. Yeah, and otherwise, we just want to, get things working here and just, get people to come down and eat and drink and have fun, basically.
Awesome. Have you ever thought of, because I know this is starting to become very popular, and obviously we're thinking of the future, like solar panels trying to become carbon negative? Is that like an idea as well?
It's an idea. It's an idea that we had when we opened up. To be honest, we looked into a lot of different possibilities, but well, first of all, there was the startup capital that was kind of pretty big from the get-go, and so we kind of decided that we weren't sure that we could hack it to invest in some technologies that were pretty expensive. And the main thing that we wanted to do was there's a lot of heat recuperation that can be done, I think, with the brewing process. We have like a steam boiler that emits a lot of heat. We have a glycol chiller that's on the roof and so we looked into that. There was a project that we had with our collaborator that brews Ypon. So Ypon is basically a brand that we subcontract here that's been with us for forever. And the Julien, the guy that's behind that, he has a huge knowledge of botanics and everything that's plant-based, basically fruit and exotic fruits and all that. And he would have liked to have like a small greenhouse on the roof here. Structurally is a problem for the building, but the idea was to grow some exotic fruits that were like sort of on the limit of being growable in Quebec because of the cold winters. The main issue we found with that, we wanted to recuperate CO2 from fermentations and heat from the brewing process. But the big problem is we don't brew at night, and that's when you need it. So all that heat, you recuperate during the day, but when you really need it, it's not really there. So anyway, we looked into different projects like this, and eventually, when all this pandemic shit is done with, and that we're actually rolling and turning a profit with this place, then I would really like to get into more sophisticated systems to go in that direction, because I think it'll be super important. Well, today and in the future, even more so. It's something that we'd like to look into for sure.
Awesome. I have no other questions for you. I really appreciate you having us today. Let my audience know where they can find you.
We have Facebook and Instagram. So basically, Brasseurs Avant-Garde. You can hit us up there. We're actually building our new website, which will be online probably next week. You can find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram.
Okay, and if people are in Montreal, where can they physically find you?
The taproom here, we're in the east end of Montreal, métro. So we're right next to the Green Line on Hochelaga. And we have a whole lot of different retailers that hold our products. Mostly, obviously the craft beer stores all have our products, and we're working a lot of supermarkets as well. And we're working to get our beer out there as much as we can, for sure. But we're pretty easily findable.
Awesome. So you heard it here. Now today, if you like the episode, hit subscribe. Comments, notification bell. As for us, allbeerinside.com is the website, at allbeerinside on all social media. And as I say at the end of all episodes, drink craft, not crap.